I would even put this movie as one of the top 5 movies I've ever seen. It's up there with Batman Dark Knight, Interstellar, and Arrival. Like, it is up there with those movies. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about the very anticipated movie Spider-Man Across the Universe, which is the sequel to Spider-Man Into the Universe, which was probably the best animated movie I have ever seen in my entire life. I remember back in 2018 when I saw it, I was shocked at how amazing it was. The animation and the art was absolutely stunning, like how everybody has always said, like, the art is so good. Definitely should have won Best Animation if it didn't. And I had been looking forward to a sequel. With that type of artwork, I know it takes a lot of years to create, and it had been a couple of years and I just expected that there wasn't going to be a sequel. But then when I finally saw the trailer for Across the Universe, I was really looking forward to the sequel to the most amazing cartoon animated film that I've ever seen. So I'm just gonna tell you flat out, this movie is probably the best animated movie I have ever seen in my entire life. Is better than the first one. It's almost 3 hours long, and I was like, ugh, for a cartoon? Like, that's such a long movie, and it did not disappoint. Even if the trailers spoil the slightest bit, that would be disappointing. Like, you need to go in with fresh eyes, with, like, not knowing anything about this movie, basically, other than it's a sequel to the first one. It was that good. I would even put this movie as one of the top 5 movies I've ever seen. It's up there with Batman Dark Knight, Interstellar, and Arrival. Like, it is up there with those movies. It's a good contender with, like, live action movies as well as animated movies. It's so good. Also, this movie is amazing as a standalone film as well. Like, you don't need it to be a crutch to the first movie. They could have put this one out very first and it would have been amazing on its own. So without spoiling anything, let's just talk about the artwork. Is absolutely amazing. And in the first one, I really liked how everything looked like a comic book kind of. It had like the scratchy and you could see like all the pixels. And with the second one, I was expecting it just to be the same comic book style, but they changed it. Not so much that you're like missing out, because when you're in Miles Morales' Earth, it is the same art style as the first one. But this one, without spoiling too much, it does go into other people's Earths. And when it goes into their other universes, it has a completely different art style for every single one. And it is amazing. And they really expand on all of the different characters and how their worlds would be drawn differently. And it was so beautiful to watch. And there's these moments where the background will change depending on what the scene calls for, and the background art is absolutely beautiful. It is go, and the art is so captivating that it's over before you know it, and everybody in the theater was like, that's it, no, we need another one. And I know that they're making a third that comes out next year, and I'm so excited for that one because it's gonna be just an extension of this movie. The art is something that you should go for alone. Like, you don't even need the story because the art is so captivating. But what they also did amazing is the story is so good. Like, you're captivated by the art. The story does not fall flat at all. It keeps you engaged the entire time. The dialogue is amazing. Again, no spoilers, but there was a couple parts where the dialogue seemed a little bit cheesy and the theater kind of started laughing a little bit. We were laughing at some parts. There's some heart-wrenching parts, and it was just, I never once felt like, okay, this is a dull moment. Let's move on to the next scene. Okay, we're like, wrap it up. Like, it was just go from start to finish. The character development for Miles Morales is definitely there, but you can tell that they don't spend too much time on Miles. They don't spend too much time on Gwen or any of the other characters. Everybody has their own moment. You don't feel like you're missing out on anybody. Everybody kind of gets their scene. And it was just so good. I don't know. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about spoilers. So from here on out, I will be spoiling the entire movie. So please, if you have not seen this movie, click out of this video and go watch it, because I think everybody needs to watch this without getting spoiled. And if you have been spoiled, I am so, so sorry for your loss. Like, this is like endgame level. This is the same caliber as that, and it's an animated film. Anyway, but if you have seen the movie, or if you are somebody that does not care about spoilers, then please keep watching because we're going to get into it. So let's go. The movie starts off in Gwen's universe, and her drawing style is not the Ben-Day dots. It's like watercolor, kind of. If you were to paint and then you kind of like brush over the paint with more water, and it kind of gets that like fuzzy or like watery droplets, and it kind of looks a little bit runny, I guess. She's kind of going through mourning losing her best friend, and then also mourning not being able to see her new friend that she made while she was in Miles's universe. There's the Vulture. His art style was so cool. It was very like, it was paper mache kind of. It looked like, if you've ever seen Kubo and the Two Strings, that uses stop animation as well as paper mache animation. His art is basically that, and it's so, so cool. It's also cool to see those two mediums in the same movie because we've never seen that before, and I feel like that animation, you don't cross animation over that often, and if you do cross animation, sometimes it looks really out of place, but this, like, it blended together as well as it's supposed to look out of place. So there's this scene where her dad kind of catches her. He finally realizes that Gwen is Spider-Woman. They just do like face shots of both of them, and it still seems super, super engaging and intense, and you can tell that this is like an intense moment, and the background is absolutely, like, I'm getting chills talking about it. Like, it's so beautiful, and it will show, there's this one part where she takes off her mask, and the art behind her is her mask, like her eyes, and it is stunning. And then it shows him, and it's like blue, and then it turns darker and red when they're fighting. Like, it's showing the emotions as the background, which is so cool. And I think if they were to just kind of keep it the art museum that they were at and just have that as the background for the whole thing, you would kind of be like, okay, like, we get it, like, wrap it up a little bit. But because they had that changing art, it was stunning, and it was just kept you engaged the entire time. The artist and the director or the producers, whatever, they had a lot of trust that the audience will understand and the audience will piece together the gaps. I hate it in movies where there's a lot of that talk explanation and they explain a lot of things because they think the audience won't understand it, or they don't trust that the audience will fill in the gaps where it needs to be. But this movie did a great job of explaining when they absolutely needed to and showing, not telling, as well as leaving it up to the audience's interpretation of what was going on through the art, obviously. Like, they don't explain why Gwen is not supposed to go to Miles's universe until like the very end, and how they explain why she's not supposed to is not, Gwen is not supposed to go here because blah 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 blah. It is finding out why he is Spider-Man and how he is an anomaly and he is not supposed to be Spider-Man. And then he turns to Gwen and is like, that's why you weren't supposed to be here. And then she's like, I didn't know how to tell you. You know, we cut to Miles's universe, and he is running late for a meeting, and it has that same like funny banter that they always have, like his they call it Scooby-Dooing, and they have these little explanations on the screen in the comic book style. It'll have the definition of something, and I loved that because I was like, oh, that's what that's called. That's cool. Like, what Spider-Man's little, like, cheesy lines are. It's called Scooby-Doo. So he's fighting Spot. At the beginning, it has that feeling of, like, okay, every villain thinks that he is Spider-Man's arch nemesis. But then as the movie progresses, he definitely is the arch nemesis. And it's just fun, great, amazing. And then he stops fighting to go to this teacher interview to figure out his future. And his teacher's like, you need a story so that you can really pack a punch going to Princeton. And he's like, well, why do I need a story? Like, whatever. And he's 15 years old. He, like, doesn't need a story. He's only 15. That's kind of the underlining theme for Miles through this thing is, you need a story. You need to know who you are. You need to know this, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, stop making my story for me. I can do it myself when the time comes, basically. And him and his dad are trying to chase down Spot, and then the Spot literally kicks his own ass and and goes into this like voided area. Him and his dad have this cute conversation where he's like, "You're like my son, and my son is like a troublemaker, and you need to be a better role model for everybody." And he's like, "Well, maybe you're hard to talk to," and it's just this like cute little moment. Anyway, Spot, when he finds out he can jump from universes, he like pokes his head out, and it's the corner shop lady from Venom, and he has like a whole conversation with her, and I was like, what? That's, and I even had to lean over. I was like, she's the lady from Venom, and my husband was like, yeah, I know. It was so exciting to see that it was like I had to like say something about it. You can tell that there's just conflict with every single character. The conflicts do not get resolved in this film, and I think hopefully they get resolved later on in the next movie, but there's just this underlying feeling of like conflict, anxiety and anger and lack of understanding throughout the entire film. I'm just going to jump a little bit to when he jumps into the portal to follow Gwen, and you end up in the India version of Peter Parker in this new universe, and I absolutely loved this character. I thought it was such a good way to bring in representation without it being like the sake of representation or like, oh, we have to do this. Like, it was just like how it is. It didn't have to be this whole like, we have to do this. Like, how do we put in more characters? How do we bring in more cultures? We're gonna get canceled if we don't. Like, it was just like, we're gonna do it because it's cool and it's fun, and why not? So it just seemed so organic. Anyway, I loved his character. I liked his bracelets that also looked like one of the yo-yo things, and he uses his webs and that as like a weapon of like defense and stuff. I also loved the costume for the Indian Spider-Man. His costume was great. He had like the bindi. The art style was really cool. And then you get this guitar band rocker Spider-Man. And at first, his art was really disorienting. I wasn't getting like nauseous, but my eyes were like, oh, there's so much to look at, so much different art that it was a little bit, yeah, disorienting, I guess is the best word for that. But it was a fight sequence, so I think you would get that no matter what, especially bringing in so many different art styles. When they're in the headquarters, that is where I really liked the rocker Spider-Man guy. He was, because it wasn't like jam-packed and like super fast moving, so you could really see all the art and all the detail like slower paced, and he looked the coolest. It looked like a bunch of magazines or newspapers. Like if you were to put newspapers and like put them on top of each other to like make art from that, that's what he looked like a collage to make a picture. Anyway, his was really cool. And when we're in the huge universe headquarters of all the Spider-Man and all of the universes, which that scene was by far the coolest scene. One, for nostalgia. It was nostalgia without it being like too much nostalgia, I guess, but also like filling everybody's like, oh, they had that, oh, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. And there was this one part where they show Donald Glover, and he's supposed to be Uncle Aaron in Tom Holland's Spider-Man. And he's only in it for like 5 minutes or something like that. He gets his like hand webbed to a taxi or to his car. And when I saw that, I was like, and I like held on to my husband who was sitting next to me, and I was like, this is so cool. And then there was also this one scene. This part is gonna be so jumbled because there was so much to like pack in, and like you're just watching so much and my brain was like exploding. But there was this one part where Miles is running through like the headquarters building, and there's this Spider Woman who's holding onto like 2 metal things simulating like a train or like something splitting, and like using her strength like training as a Spider-Man or woman would train. And it was just so funny, and like the humor was really there. And also when they first get there, they're walking through just like the lobby area, and all of the Spider-Man are Spider people are like doing the Scooby-Doo thing where they're like, oh, how did you get the whole guy? Oh, that was a whole, like a big, like, and they were making their like funny, sarcastic comments and stuff, but it was every single one of them was doing it as if they were all like unique and individual, but there's so many of them. And they also are, they show like Lego Spider-Man, and he's like, thanks Peter, you're one of the best, and it's like walking like Legos. Then they're like, oh, there's this video game guy, and it has the newest Spider-Man video game character in the shot, which was awesome. And then that's when they start talking about the canon events, how there has to be a captain that dies that's close to Spider-Man. He has to go through that, or she has to go through that event. And they show Gwen Stacy's dad in the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man dying, and they have Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. They like have like a little clip to show Miles what's going on, and it's actually like Andrew Garfield, like cut from the movie, and that was so amazing. Like, what the heck is this? This is so cool. Like, they really thought of everything without it being like cheesy. Like, it really, all of the nostalgia played into the actual movie and the storyline, which was enamoring. They also show where Uncle Ben dies in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and they have like Tobey Maguire crying with Ben on the floor. They show that a little bit, and it was just so awesome. Oh yeah, and then he is trying to escape, and then he goes to Earth 42, which is where the spider is from that bit him. And Earth 42 is not Miles Morales' Earth. Earth 42 is a spider that jumped and then was not supposed to bite Miles. It was supposed to bite Peter Parker in Earth 42. And so now that Earth doesn't have a Spider-Man. That Earth is like, New York is corrupt and it's ugly. There's this one thing that what I noticed was really cool is when he is in Earth 42, his mom comes in, she's like, oh, you changed your hair? And I was like, oh, maybe it's like disheveled or something. Like, I didn't really get it at the beginning, obviously, because we think he's in his Earth. But then his mom has green eyes, and I was like, wow, I didn't notice she had green eyes. That's really cool. Like, her eyes are so beautiful. This was like in my head in real time. I was like, wow, her eyes are green? Okay, whatever. And then it shows Gwen. She's like, wait, he's not in the right Earth. And it cuts to Miles's real mom. And she has brown eyes. So they really thought of everything, and like just a little tiny detail, which makes it so cool. Like, okay, so in Earth 42, his mom has green eyes, but it's like, if you blink, you'll miss it. If Earth 42's spider actually bit Peter Parker, then Miles and Aaron would have been evil regardless. So if Miles Morales, like the Miles Morales we know, would never have gotten bit, then he would have been closer with his uncle Aaron and would have been a bad guy. This movie was so good. I have zero complaints about this movie. I would probably have to sit here for hours and hours and hours to find something to complain about, and I don't even think that there is anything to complain about. Like, I wouldn't even have like a nitpicking complaint. But what I will say is, because it did end so abruptly with his original friend group, when they're like going to go and help him in Earth 42, it just cuts and stops. And we were like, what? And everybody in the theater was like, are you kidding me? No, what? And it was just like, okay, let's hurry and get the third one out, because I want to see it. I need to know what happens, and I want to see the beautiful art, and I want to just relive that moment again. And I'm probably going to go see it like 5 more times. So yeah, go see this movie. Go see it again. The nerd score, which I keep forgetting to do in every single video, I would give it a 99 out of 100. Only because of that one fight sequence where they're in India, and it's just kind of disorienting. And for my eyes were just like, it was a lot to look at and a lot to consume. So for that, it gets a 99 out of 100. So please go see this movie, and like and subscribe if you liked this video, or don't, whatever you like. I don't know, not forcing you into anything. Flash is next week, so if you want to see that, go ahead and subscribe. You can turn on the post notifications if you want. Let's get this video to at least 3 likes, and I will see you next week. Thank you. Bye. My chunky monkey!